And I'm so excited to have you all with us today. And I'd like to welcome Kayli Anderson. Kayli, thank you for joining us for today's workshop and leading it for us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So once again, Kayli, thank you for being with us today. Hormone health, that is a really hot topic right now for both women and men. And before we get started, I'm just going to read your bio so everybody gets to know a little bit more about you. So Kayli Anderson is a registered dietitian certified in lifestyle medicine, women's integrative medicine, intuitive eating, exercise physiology, and natural food cooking. She serves as lead faculty of ACLM's Food as Medicine course and co-chair of their Women's Health Group. And of course, ACLM is the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. She is a fellow of ACLM and is the creator of the educational website plantbasedmavens.com. She's a contributing author of 3 lifestyle medicine textbooks, including the one on women's health. So again, Kayli Anderson, thank you for being here today. And I'm going to turn things over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle and Amy, and welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you are here to talk about hormone health with me. And as Michelle said, hormone health is a big topic, and it encompasses a lot of different potential causes, conditions, signs and symptoms, and conversations about hormone health can get complicated and really specific really quickly. So today, I want to start with a little disclaimer. So we aren't going to get into the nitty gritty of specific hormones or specific hormone related conditions. I'm not an endocrinologist, I'm a registered dietitian. And if you are experiencing any signs of hormone issues or you suspect that something might be going on with your hormone health, then you should always talk with your doctor to get to the bottom of it. But here is the good news. There are some baseline lifestyle related things that you can do that are good for just about any hormone related condition and also for just taking care of your hormone health in general. So tending to your hormone health often looks really similar across different genders, across different health conditions, different phases of life. There are these basic things that kind of apply to everyone. So that's what we're going to get into today. And we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it practical, things that you can take action on as soon as we are done here today. So let's go ahead and get into it. So here's a look at what we are going to cover today. We'll talk about, first, what are hormones and what do we mean when we say hormone imbalance? We'll also talk about some common signs that you can look for to indicate that your hormones might be a little bit out of whack. We'll also talk about some lifestyle related contributors that can contribute to hormone imbalances. And then we'll spend most of our time today getting into 8 simple ways that you can support your hormone health. So first of all, what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers or signals in the body that play a crucial role in regulating lots of different body functions. So these signals are carried through the bloodstream to different organs, tissues, muscles, skin, directing the body on what to do and when to do it. And hormones are responsible for coordinating all kinds of things in the body: metabolism, growth and development, reproduction, sexual function, maintaining constant internal balance known as homeostasis. So too much or too little of any hormone can both be a problem. And that's why we hear that word balance when we talk about hormones. So you can see with so many hormones and hormones connected to so many parts of our body, why this can get really complicated. Oops, here we go. So here are some common hormones, and the body produces over 50 different hormones, each with specific functions and roles to play in maintaining overall health and well-being in your body. And some of the most common ones that you have probably heard of include adrenaline, which is a stress hormone that triggers that fight or flight response that we hear about. So when your heart rate increases, or maybe you start sweating, blood flow increases, you all of a sudden feel this rush of energy available to you. So this can happen in stressful situations, and it's a normal bodily function for that to happen. Cortisol is another one that maybe you've heard of. It's a hormone released in response to stress that helps regulate metabolism and blood sugar and inflammation in a stressful situation, while also supporting energy production. Insulin is another common hormone. That's one that we often hear about in association with diabetes. And insulin helps regulate blood sugar levels by allowing cells to take in glucose for energy or storage. Estrogen is a primary female sex hormone that regulates reproductive function, menstrual cycles, supports bone health, heart health, skin health. Testosterone is a primary male sex hormone that regulates sperm production, muscle and bone mass, and also can influence mood and libido. And progesterone, a hormone that prepares the uterus for pregnancy and supports early pregnancy, and also helps to regulate the menstrual cycle. So these are just a few of those over 50 hormones in your body, and they are produced by glands in what's called the endocrine system, such as the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the adrenal glands. And then they're released into the bloodstream to reach their target organs or tissues to communicate the job that needs to be done in the body. That's kind of a simple explanation of what hormones are and why they're important in our body. Now, what is hormone imbalance? A hormone imbalance is a term, that term hormone imbalance is one that we hear a lot, right? And it's often used to describe that situation where there's either too much or too little of a certain hormone. But it's important to know that hormone imbalance is not a medical term. So that's not a diagnosis. That can mean lots of different things. That's why it's so important to work with a healthcare provider on your specific hormone imbalance, because it can affect so many parts of your body, anything from infertility to diabetes to menopause symptoms to erectile dysfunction. There's all sorts of things that can be affected by hormones being imbalanced. So this general term just kind of describes when something in the hormone system is out of whack. Balanced hormones or hormone imbalance, like I said, can mean a lot of different things. And since hormones play a crucial role in regulating various body functions, metabolism, mood, appetite, reproduction, sleep, even a slight imbalance can lead to noticeable health issues in the body. So here's a look at some common signs of hormone imbalance. And imbalances in the hormone system are actually pretty common. So approximately 80% of women experience some kind of hormone imbalance, with many related to an undiagnosed condition like polycystic ovary syndrome is a good example, or PCOS, that goes underdiagnosed. It's not caught in a lot of women. And can impact the hormone system. So really common in women, and then around 25% of men over 40 experience low testosterone levels, with 6 to 12% exhibiting related symptoms such as reduced muscle mass and erectile dysfunction. So this is really common in both men and women. And some of those common signs that can come up can be really far-reaching. So anything from mood swings and irritability, fatigue, low energy, brain fog, depression, to hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, difficulty sleeping. It can also show up as unexplained weight gain or weight loss, a low sex drive. There's lots of different things that can manifest when the hormone system is imbalanced. And then those signs and symptoms can then lead to lots of different health conditions related to a hormone imbalance. So anything from metabolic and endocrine disorders, things like hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, type 2 diabetes, reproductive health conditions. I mentioned PCOS, Menopause and perimenopause, that's not a diagnosed disease, but that is a time in life when hormone levels can change and cause some different signs and symptoms. It can also manifest as mental and emotional disorders, depression and anxiety, insomnia, other women's health issues like endometriosis, adrenal and stress related conditions, skin and hair disorders, and even digestive disorders like irritable bowel syndrome as well. So what causes hormone imbalance? We've talked about, what they are, why they're important, how many different parts of the body they touch. What causes these imbalances? Well, you can probably guess by now that it's complicated. There are lots of things that can affect our hormone health, everything from genetics to medications that we're taking, other health conditions that may have an effect on our hormone health. But today I'm going to talk about a few lifestyle related things that can also contribute to hormone imbalances. And since I'm a dietitian, it's probably no surprise that there are a lot of food related things that can impact your hormone health. So, a few of those include your overall eating patterns. The foods that you eat impact so many aspects of hormone health. Your eating pattern really shapes your microbiome. It determines, whether you have nutrient depletions that might play a role in your hormone health. It impacts insulin, estrogen, thyroid hormones. So really that overall eating pattern is really important. Not eating enough fiber. Fiber is also a contributor to hormone imbalances. Fiber helps keep your gut healthy and helps clear excess hormones like excess estrogen, for example. Some other lifestyle related factors include gut health disruption. So, low diversity in your gut flora can impact hormones as well. Your exposure to environmental chemicals. So, chemicals in personal care products, cleaning products, plastics, air pollution, clothing, furniture. There are chemicals called endocrine disrupting chemicals, and we'll talk about those a little bit more later, that can impact your hormone health in a multitude of ways. Chronic stress is another thing that can impact your hormone health. So it can elevate cortisol levels, which can affect metabolism, sleep, your mood, and poor sleep can also impact your hormone health. It can disrupt melatonin and cortisol balance, which can affect your hormones as well. So now we know a little bit more about hormones. We know what might be contributing to hormone imbalance. Let's talk about 8 ways that you can support your hormone health, whether you have something existing going on or you're just looking to really support your hormone system and maybe prevent some of these things from happening. And because food is so intricately related to your hormone health, our first 4 of 8 are going to be food related changes that you can make. So the first one is eating more leafy greens. Now, there are many foods that are great for a hormone healthy diet, but I consider dark leafy greens to really be at the top of that list because they are packed with vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals that are important for hormone production and regulation. They also contain a lot of fiber, which is important for your hormone health as well. And as we go through these, I'm going to give you really realistic goals to get started with here. So for our leafy greens, I want you to aim for at least 1 serving per day of leafy greens. This could be kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, even our cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, or cabbage. Now, how can you go about making that happen? Well, for each of these, I'm also going to give you some really practical ways that you can start to practice these. So for leafy greens, here are some ideas. And I find that with any kind of health related change that you're making, the more you can put it on autopilot, the easier it will be. You know, the classic example of brushing your teeth every day, you might even do it without thinking about it. You might not even remember doing it if you think back later in the day. So making these habits kind of like that, where they're just on autopilot, makes them so much easier to complete. So for our leafy greens, one way to put it on autopilot is just to have a daily salad. That could be maybe a big lunch salad if you're adding a bunch of other food groups in it to make it a filling meal, and that's just your lunch every day on autopilot. Or maybe you have a side salad with your dinner every night, and that's just on autopilot, something that you do every day to get in that serving of leafy greens. Another idea is to fold those greens into things you're already making, like soups or casseroles or pasta sauce. So I'll often chop up some kale and just stir it into a soup or stir it into the spaghetti sauce that I'm making, and it just wilts right in, and you barely even know that it's there. You could also do a daily green smoothie as a snack or as your breakfast to put it on autopilot. And then also try different cooking methods. If you're a person who hasn't found that delicious way to enjoy leafy greens or cruciferous vegetables, try different cooking methods. So I think back on the Brussels sprouts that I grew up on were boiled out of a bag, not very delicious. But now I, have them or quarter them and toss them in some olive oil and salt and pepper and roast them, and they're so delicious. So cooking methods can really transform these types of foods, and roasting is one of my favorite ways when it comes to leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. All right, let's move on to number 2, get your healthy fats. So fats are key ingredients in hormone production. So going too low on fats in your diet can actually contribute to some hormone disruption. And also eating the wrong kinds of fats can also contribute to hormone imbalances. So for example, in one study of women who were undergoing in vitro fertilization or IVF treatment, those with the highest amount of monounsaturated fats, so the healthy fats that we're going to talk about in a minute, in their diets were greater than 3 times more likely to conceive than women with the lowest intake of those healthy fats. So our goal here is 1 small serving with every meal. And a small serving is a tablespoon, about the size of your thumb, if that's helpful. And our healthy fats include our unsaturated fats like avocado, nuts and seeds like walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, pecans, almonds, pumpkin seeds, and then the respective nut and seed oils. So oils like avocado oil or olive oil, cooking with those things. And then, of course, nut and seed butters also count. So let's talk about some ways to fit these in. So some ideas, simple ideas, add them to your oatmeal or your cereal, sprinkle nuts and seeds on those, add a scoop of peanut butter is a great way to fit that in. Roasting those veggies in those healthy oils that we talked about is another way. Swapping butter for avocado. So butter is a saturated fat, so making that swap for some avocado on your toast is a way to fit this in. And then simply just snacking on nuts and seeds, making a little homemade trail mix or a little mix of your own of things that you enjoy and having that as a snack. All right, number 3, I know this one is a favorite around here at Full Plate. Enjoying your beans and legumes can be really helpful for your hormone health. So not only do beans, lentils, and soy, which is what we're talking about in this group, provide plant-based protein, they also contain phytoestrogens. And phytoestrogens are like plant hormones almost. And they actually help clear excess hormones and block the detrimental effects of hormone disrupting chemicals in the body. And they just help keep hormone levels in balance overall as well. Beans and legumes are also great for balancing blood sugar, which is also related to your hormone health. So our goal here, simple, doable goal, is at least one serving of beans, lentils, or soy, things like tofu, tempeh, edamame, each day. So let's talk about some practical ways to make that happen. So one way that's really great is bean-based soups or lentil-based soups. So there are so many varieties of recipes when it comes to bean and lentil-based soups, and it's a great hearty way to get these foods in. You can make soups like this in a big batch, and they're great for several days for lunch, or you can even freeze them for easy dinners. Another thing is hummus counts. Hummus is pureed chickpeas. So if you want to snack on hummus, use it as a dip or use it as a spread, that's a way to get in a serving of beans. And when we're talking about a serving of beans, we're talking about a half a cup of beans. Another thing that you can do is either add to or swap in beans or lentils or a soy food into meals that you're already making and that you already enjoy. So a couple of examples here. So say you're making ground beef tacos. You could add some black beans to that, or you could, cut that beef in half and replace it with some beans. Or in a chili, for example, you could also add some extra beans in there. So adding it to things that you already enjoy is a really easy way to try these foods. Another great way that I really enjoy is snacking on that you can find roasted edamame or roasted chickpeas at the store, or you can make them at home, and they make a really great snack, a great kind of salty, crunchy snack option. So that's a fun way to fit in these foods as well. All right, number 4 is to load up on fiber. So fiber is really important for our hormone health. So fiber helps to clear excess hormones in the body, especially excess estrogen, and it also helps to balance our blood sugar levels. And because fiber is only found in plant-based foods, this is your sign to load up on those plant-based foods. So foods like whole grains, beans, vegetables, fruits, a lot of the things that we've already talked about. People who eat a predominantly plant-based diet, which is associated with a high fiber diet, are better at excreting excess hormones, and they also tend to have lower rates of hormone-related health conditions as well. So a really great reason to increase the amount of fiber that you're eating. So this goal is a much bigger goal. So the goal here is to really work up to about 40 grams of fiber per day. And this can happen slowly over time. The average intake in America is about 15 to 17 grams per day. Some estimates I've seen are even lower than that. So a lot of people have a long way to go to get to 40, and that's okay. But you see a lot of high fiber foods listed here, and a lot of them are really surprising, like chia seeds. 2 tablespoons has 10 grams of fiber. A cup of black beans has 15 grams of fiber. Raspberries and blackberries, a cup of those berries has 8 grams of fiber. An avocado has 10 grams of fiber. Uh, um, Almonds per ounce, which is just a small serving, is 4 grams of fiber. So you can see that when you're eating a lot of these foods, it can be a little bit easier to get to that 40. And just to give you an idea, I put together this sample day that gets us to 40 grams of fiber. So we're looking at, oatmeal with berries and flax seeds, some almond butter for breakfast. That's 15 grams of fiber. At lunch, we're having a quinoa and chickpea salad with lots of veggies in there. That's 14 grams of fiber. Snack of apples and almonds, 8.5 grams of fiber. And then dinner is a tofu and brown rice stir fry with veggies in there as well. And that's 13.5 grams of fiber. And even some dessert, some dark chocolate, which actually has 3 grams of fiber in it. That puts us at 41 grams of fiber for under 2,000 calories. So you can see that this is doable. And I think with this meal plan, we've also checked the boxes of our other 3 previous hormone health steps, which is those leafy greens and that salad. We've got our healthy fats in every meal. And then we have our fiber and we have our beans and our chickpeas, chickpea lunch, and our soy, our tofu at dinner. So we're checking all the boxes here, and we're getting all of that fiber in. So let's talk about a few other ways to work up to that 40 grams. Number one, best recommendation I can give you is to join FullPlateLiving and work on your 75-25 plate. That is going to get you there pretty quickly. And it's a really easy visual for you to think about with every meal to help build up to that 40 grams. Some other things, we saw how high in fiber chia seeds are. So adding those to smoothies or oatmeal, making a chia pudding, which is what we see pictured here. And that can be a really yummy breakfast or snack or even a dessert. Another thing you can do is swap your grains. If you're not eating whole grains, then swap in some whole grains. So for example, if you're used to eating white rice, try brown rice or another whole grain rice. And if you're still kind of getting used to that texture or flavor of those whole grains, then just do half and half. That's a great way to work up to eating more of those whole grains. Another great easy thing you can do is snack on high fiber foods in between your meals. So a pear, what did we say here? A pear has 5.5 grams of fiber in it. So having a pear as a afternoon snack is a great way to boost your fiber intake as well. All right, so we've covered all of our food-related hormone helpers. Now we're going to get into some other lifestyle practices that you can try. And the first one of those, our number 5, is working on reducing stress, because we learned that stress, especially chronic stress, can really impact our hormone health. So stress is more than just an emotional roller coaster. It is also a chemical roller coaster. We talked about how adrenaline and cortisol play a role. There's other hormones at play when we're experiencing stress. And chronic stress sets off a cascade of hormone-based responses, including elevated cortisol levels. That's the hormone that we often hear associated with stress. Acute stress is a normal part of life, and our bodies are intelligently designed to handle those short-term bouts of stress. So any stress that I felt before coming on camera here with you, that's normal acute stress. So my slides are skipping here. There we go. That's normal acute stress. If you feel just a little bit of stress before running a marathon or something like that, that's normal stress. But a lot of us are experiencing chronic stress. That's really the problem today, because our lives are a constant state of stress, from balancing work and family and caretaking responsibilities and finances and the news every day. This is an onslaught of stress-related hormones that are coursing through the body and can really wreak havoc on hormone health. So while it is impossible to eliminate all of those stressors, that's not what I'm suggesting today. It will do your hormones good to find ways to cope with your stress. And I think of this in 2 buckets. So our first bucket is kind of what I'm going to call a life inventory, and it's really looking at root causes and making some kind of root cause changes. So this could be, looking at your life and identifying some points of stress, and then doing things like asking for help or support in areas where you might need that, or setting a boundary or having a hard conversation with someone in your life. And this work, this kind of life inventory work, can be done on your own. It's also great work to do with the support of a mental health professional. And then the other bucket is our daily habits. And these are things that both A, reduce stress in the moment, and B, build what's called stress resilience over time. So research shows us that if these things are in place in our life, then we tend to be more resilient to stress. We have a different perspective and we're able to handle it better than if these things aren't in our life. So some of these daily habits include things like journaling. So this could be a gratitude journal. This could be a worry journal, which we'll talk about in our next step when we talk about sleep. It could be things like deep breathing, and that could be, you could have a whole breath work practice, or you could just take a big deep breath whenever you feel that you're holding your breath or taking short breaths. It can be contemplative or reflective practices like meditation or prayer. Time for activities that you enjoy is also a daily habit that has been shown to boost stress resilience. And studies show that there are bonus points if it's a creative activity. So, taking a watercolor class, or trying some other activity, maybe a new activity or one that you've enjoyed for a long time that you're just now making more time for, is really important. Finding movement that you enjoy, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, how exercise and moving your body relates to your hormone health. Investing in core relationships. So this could be one or two people in your life who you've identified as a good support system, people that you feel comfortable with, and really investing in those relationships so they're strong, and that can make you more resilient to stress. And time in nature can also make you more resilient. And this could be a hike in the woods. This could be time in your garden or doing yard work around your house. It can be really simple. Just that time outside has been shown to reduce stress as well. All right, number 6 is get quality sleep. So, sleep and your circadian rhythm is another function that is intricately orchestrated by your hormones. So, when your body clock or your circadian rhythm is out of whack, then most likely your hormones are out of whack too. And this one is really all about getting your body clock back into rhythm so that hopefully your hormones will follow suit as well. Poor sleep can be the result of many, many different things. So, if you are really struggling with sleep, that's another important thing to discuss with your healthcare provider, and maybe do a little bit of investigating on your own about what might be preventing you from falling asleep or keeping you up at night if you wake up. But a great place to start for everybody is developing an evening and a morning routine. This is all about just creating a rhythm, right? That circadian rhythm is just our body's rhythmic clock. And so when we can kind of set up rhythm in our environment, then that can help set up rhythm in our bodies as well. And these don't need to be elaborate, they can be really simple. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. So some ideas for an evening routine that are going to help support sleep. This is all about sending the message to your body that it's time to get ready for sleep. It's time to wind down. Dim the lights. Take a quick shower or bath before bed. Putting away screens. And the recommendation is at least 30 minutes before you're going to sleep. Earlier is probably better. It's going to help, you don't have that blue light exposure, and it's going to help your body wind down. Setting your room to a cool temperature, and then choosing a wind down activity that is screen free, like reading a book or journaling. You can start a worry journal. So I mentioned this earlier. So if you are a person who has a hard time falling asleep because all the worries and to-dos of today and of the next day are just flooding in whenever you lay on your pillow, then a worry journal is something that could be a helpful tool for you. And it's simply just kind of brain dumping everything that's on your mind, worries, to-dos, onto a piece of paper before you go to bed, and just kind of visualizing them being taken out of your head onto the paper. They'll be there when you wake up, so that you can sleep. And then some ideas for a morning routine. So this is a hard one for a lot of people, and it is such a habit, I know, to reach for that phone as soon as you wake up. I am certainly guilty of doing this as well. So trying to not do that. And maybe that's getting an old-fashioned alarm clock and putting your phone in another room. Maybe that's just putting your phone across the room so you have to physically get up out of bed um, to get it. So any way that you can avoid opening up that phone, because as soon as you do, you're checking messages and email and social media, and you don't get to decide how your day starts. Your phone and everything coming at you is deciding how your day is going to start. So instead, stretch, check in with yourself. That should be the first thing we do, right? Is just say, how am I feeling today? Say something that you're grateful for. That can be a really great way to start your day. Just making a mental note of something that you're grateful for, something you're excited about for that day. Some other things that can help to really reset your body clock and reset your circadian rhythm are getting natural light exposure first thing. So that could be by opening up your window, being by an open window to get that light exposure. It could be going outside if you have the time and space for that as well. And then getting a little bit of movement can also set your body clock up for success and send that message to your body that it's time to wake up. That could be stretching, that could be a full workout, a walk around the block, whatever makes sense for you. Okay, so number 7 for our hormone helpers is to move your body every day. And daily movement supports your hormone health in so many ways. So it can help improve insulin sensitivity, reduce stress, support metabolism. Strength training and aerobic exercise can help regulate insulin and blood sugar levels, which can help lower the risk of diabetes. Moderate activity reduces cortisol, which can ease stress and anxiety. While movement also helps to boost endorphins, serotonin, dopamine. These are all hormones that help enhance our mood and our mental health. Regular exercise also supports thyroid function, helps with energy and metabolism, and promotes healthy testosterone and estrogen levels, which can help improve fertility, muscle growth, managing a healthy weight. It also regulates hunger hormones. So ghrelin and leptin are hunger and fullness hormones. It can help to prevent overeating because it's regulating those hormones. And it stimulates growth hormone, which can aid in loss of body fat and has some anti-aging effects as well. A mix of strength training, cardiovascular exercise, and some kind of relaxation exercise like yoga or stretching offers the best hormone balancing benefits, having that kind of trifecta of things. So the recommendation for physical activity is at least 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous activity every week. Now, this can be done in hour-long segments, 30-minute segments, or even 10-minute segments, which is really great. You can break this up however you want throughout the week, and you're still going to get these effects. And so some ways to make daily movement part of your routine. The first and foremost is to choose things you enjoy. It seems so obvious. If we choose things we enjoy, we are going to actually do them, right? That seems obvious, but for some reason, we often have this really static idea about what physical activity is supposed to look like. We have to join a gym, we have to get on a treadmill, but it doesn't have to look any of those things. So this is permission to let go of all of those expectations and preconceived ideas and let it look non-traditional. A good question to ask yourself is, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? Were you on sports teams? Did you really like to do things like that with other people? Did you like riding your bike? Did you jump on a trampoline? Did you roller skate? There's so many different activities that you probably did out of pure enjoyment that can translate into adult activities as well. And it can look non-traditional as well. It could be working in your garden or dancing or something like that. Another way to make this more doable, if you are a person who just doesn't really look forward to exercise, pair it with other things. So it could either be something that you look forward to and enjoy, like your walk or your bike ride is a time that you listen to a podcast that you really love. You make phone calls to people talk to a friend while you're walking. Those are ways to make it a little bit more enjoyable. Treadmill in front of the TV, you can watch a show, or you can pair it with productivity so it feels a little bit easier to fit into your day. So it could be commuting, that could be to and from work, but that could also just be walking to the mailbox or walking to different errands that you have to run, or household tasks. Any way that you're moving your body, if you're vacuuming, carrying laundry up and down the stairs, these things all count as daily movement. All right, so home stretch here. We've got our last topic. And number 8 is to work on lowering your exposure to those endocrine disrupting chemicals. And this one can feel a little bit overwhelming. So I'll just warn you of that, and we'll talk about some really simple ways to practice this one. So don't worry too much. So what are hormone disrupting chemicals first? So when chemicals called endocrine disruptors, or EDCs, or they're often abbreviated that way, are absorbed into our body from some source of exposure, they can interfere with hormone function by mimicking or blocking your hormones. So a classic example that you're probably familiar with is bisphenol A, or BPA, which is a chemical that's found in plastic food storage containers, thermal paper, like the paper that receipts are printed on, plastic water bottles. BPA can leach into our food. It can get on our hands, which might get into our mouth, get into our water if it's in a water bottle, especially when it's heated up. So leaving a plastic water bottle in the car and then drinking it, or heating food in a plastic container. And it can actually mimic estrogen in the body and disrupt hormone balance. And this is so well studied that there have been regulations around the use of BPA. So you probably have seen products that say BPA free nowadays, because people have a lot more awareness around it. Other types of endocrine disruptors can interfere with things like thyroid hormones, adrenal hormones, testosterone, insulin. So where else are these chemicals found? So I mentioned plastic food packaging and storage containers, non-stick cookware like Teflon, personal care products like lotion, shampoo, cosmetics, cleaning products, air fresheners, or anything else that's scented with a synthetic fragrance. Things like laundry detergent, hand soap, those also contain endocrine disrupting chemicals. So as I said, it can feel a little overwhelming, like they're just everywhere, and how are we supposed to avoid them, right? So here are some simple ways to get started with this one. First of all, wash your hands frequently. We are touching different surfaces. Receipts are a really good example of that. When you're taking the receipt from the cashier, for example, you're getting exposed to those endocrine disrupting chemicals. So making sure that you're washing your hands regularly can help limit that exposure. Opening the windows in your house to allow for better ventilation and air circulation, letting that fresh air in, so you're diluting and dispersing any of those air pollutants that are kind of contained inside of your house. That could be from cleaning products that you might be using, plastics in your home, fragrances, even furniture, rugs. If you live in a new house, a lot of building materials can off-gas chemicals into the air. So kind of airing out your home every now and then can also help. Vacuuming and cleaning your home often is also helpful. So wiping down surfaces and vacuuming, the vacuum that has a HEPA filter can also help to trap some of those dust particles and limit your exposure. And then let's get into some more kind of nitty gritty swaps that you can make. So the first swap that I would recommend is plastics in your kitchen. So plastics contain those hormone disrupting chemicals like BPA that we just talked about, phthalates as well, which have been linked to things like breast cancer, fertility issues, premature puberty. Even the American Academy of Pediatrics cautions against microwaving things in plastic containers because of these harmful chemicals. So swap those out. Try stainless steel or glass instead. Or if you are going to continue to use plastic storage containers, just transfer it into something else before you're heating it up. Another change you can make is swapping out cookware. So conventional nonstick cookware like Teflon contains a family of chemicals known as PFAS chemicals or PFAS chemicals. Even in low doses, these chemicals have been linked to certain cancers, immune suppression, early puberty, thyroid disruption. So trade out that nonstick cookware for things like cast iron, stainless steel, enamel. If you do continue to use stainless or nonstick cookware, if it starts flaking off, then it's time to get rid of it because that's definitely getting into your food. This one is kind of a bummer, but going natural with fragrances, so going either fragrance free when you're choosing things like dryer sheets or laundry detergent, or things that are scented with essential oils is a safer bet. And then getting into kind of those bigger changes, so checking personal care products. So a lot of personal care products can contain endocrine disrupting chemicals. They're fairly unregulated. A helpful tool for this, the Environmental Working Groups has a database called the Skin Deep database, where you can look up a lot of products, and it, based on the ingredient list, will kind of rate its safety. So it can help you kind of assess what you have and what you might need to swap. And if you need to prioritize things here, which most of us do need to just make those swaps slowly, it's best to make the first swaps you should make are those things that you put on the larger parts of your body and that you leave on your body. So for example, swapping out a body lotion is a higher priority than swapping out a shampoo that you just put on and then rinse out. So that can kind of help you prioritize those swaps. And then of course, simplifying your cleaning products. So it's probably not surprising that home cleaning products contain chemicals, and those chemicals can affect our hormone health. So you can find safer options out there. And honestly, I get a lot done with baking soda, vinegar, and lemon juice. That's how I get stains out of things. If there's any tough stains in my clothes or even in the shower, I'm scrubbing down the shower, you can use that combination to get things clean, and that's a safe option. Okay, so we talked about our 8 hormone health steps, and here they are as a little review. So quickly, before we move on to questions, in the chat, I want to know, where are you going to start? Which one do you plan to start with? More leafy greens, great. More daily movement, fiber, quality sleep, awesome. Glass containers, yeah, great. That's great. Yeah, everyone's kind of choosing a different thing, which is great. It's kind of a menu of choices to get started with taking care of your hormones, and you can choose what is best for you. All right. Well, thank you so much for sticking with me through this topic that can be very complicated. I hope it felt simple and doable for you. And now we'll take any questions that you all have.
That was amazing, Kayli. I know there's so much to cover, and we do have a ton of questions. So maybe we'll breeze through some of these. This one is sesame oil among healthy fats.
Yes, I would say yes. I would say prioritize those monounsaturated fats, so the avocado oil, the olive oil, but sesame oil can definitely be a healthy fat.
Excellent. I am so sorry. Apparently, there's more questions being.
There are.
Hearing and coming back. Okay. Can we use supplements for fiber to complement the 40 grams?
So yes, you can, but I would recommend working on getting it from Whole Foods, because anytime we're taking a supplement, not all supplements are bad. I will say that I'm not anti-supplement, but especially when we talk about fiber, we're separating that fiber from all the other vitamins and minerals and things in those high fiber foods. So aiming for those high fiber foods is really the best way to meet those needs.
Hey, Michelle, I want to chime in here and answer one, because I've had it a number of times in the chat and have been helping people with some of these issues. One, is there a recording? Yes, I'll put the link back in here. If you want the slides are associated with the workshop product that is part of the online program. And so if you are, I know some different professionals have joined us today. So if you are using kind of our SMA, our shared medical appointment program, or our facilitated group program, we don't necessarily have that product added in, but I can grant you access to that. So one, you could absolutely sign up at FullPlateLiving.org and do the online program to help you adding more fiber to your own plate. And workshops like this, we have a lot of different recordings. Kayli has done a number of them for us that you can access there. So if you have issues, one, email us. That's the easiest way. hello@FullPlateLiving.org. I'm happy to kind of look up your account, see kind of what you have and get you access to the recording. And that also does have the slides if you want to kind of review that. I will have a recording tomorrow that we will put up that you'll be able to access as well if you're just looking for the recording, because we usually also add closed captioning for that in English and in Spanish as well, because the service that we use here doesn't always have the closed captioning option available for you if your computer doesn't automatically do some of those tricks for you. So we will have that available tomorrow. So just want to let you know that. So if you have issues, you can also kind of do it in the chat, but absolutely email us.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Amy. Back to Kayli. And this is in reference to the recipes shared for a whole day for 40 grams of fiber. Aren't we supposed to eat 1,200 calories a day?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And that's kind of a myth that I often hear, like women are supposed to eat 1,200 calories, men are supposed to eat, 1,500, 1,800, something like that. Calories are so individual. It depends on so many things, how active you are, your age, lots of factors. Personally, 1,200 calories I find with people that I work with is quite low for most people. So you could find a calorie calculator online and put in your, height, weight, activity level, gender, and get a closer range as well.
Lectins, are they a concern for beans and legumes?
No, they are not. And I'm very happy to bust that myth. That's a common one as well. So they do contain lectins in their raw or dry form, but those are broken down when you cook them, and so that's not a concern. So none of us are eating uncooked dried beans, I don't think. So we don't need to worry about that.
All right. These next two questions are related, so I'm going to put them together, even though I can only put one up on the screen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Is soy a concern for breast cancer? And is it true that soy mimics estrogen?
Great question. So there's lots of myths and concerns around soy as well. So I will say, related to breast cancer in general, soy has actually been shown to be beneficial for breast cancer risk reduction and for breast health. And that myth that soy mimics estrogen in the body is actually not true. So soy contains phytoestrogens, which is different than human estrogen. And it actually has kind of an opposite effect, or kind of a complementary effect to estrogen in the body. So it can actually help to block excess estrogen in the body. So soy has a lot of health benefits.
Excellent.
I'm going to chime in here too, because we've actually had a physician on that we're all very familiar with that did a women's workshop. I'm going to go find that link and put some of those things in here. And I'll also say the recommendation, if you're looking for a physician that you want to help you on this journey, especially if you're a woman in perimenopause or menopause, is menopause.org. Women who, physicians who are certified in that type of care. And so I'm going to put that link in here too, because I think that is going to answer some other different questions that I've seen pop up. But I'll go find those workshop recordings and include those here too for you.
Thank you for sharing those resources, Amy. If you did ask a question about a physician ordering menopause tests, Amy's going to have that link, so you can follow that link to find somebody that can help with that. What are thoughts on smoothies increasing blood sugars because of the separation of fibers during blending?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that that's a little bit individual. So if it kind of depends on where you're at with your health, with your blood sugar health. And so the good thing to do is to kind of test that. If you have a smoothie, what does that do to your blood sugar if you're monitoring that? For someone who is not having any sort of issues related to diabetes or blood sugar, then smoothies are a fine, healthy choice.
Does resistant starch play a role in healthy eating?
So yes, resistant starch is in certain foods like potatoes, baked potatoes that are cooked and then cooled. And there is some evidence that I think it can kind of play a role with weight management. Um, Personally, I am more of just like a eat and enjoy yourself person. So micromanaging a baked potato is not something that I'm recommending to people very often. So if you want to dig into that further and kind of hack that a little bit, then there is some research there, but otherwise just enjoy your baked potato.
Excellent. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and I know that everybody's time is very valuable. So I want to thank everybody for being here with us today. Again, thank you, Kayli, for taking the time to be here. This is a very complicated topic. No wonder it's so hot. No wonder there's so many takes on so many different facets of hormone imbalance, and why there is so much confusion out there. Thank you for clearing up some of that and at least giving us lifestyle factors that we can start tackling right away. All of those 8 points were very helpful, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody, for
for
being here.
having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.